Call the meeting to order. We do some introductions. Start over here. Mr. Dumas. Introductions.
Oh, hi, Tony Dumas. I was still reading the minutes.
No worries. Mark Carpenter.
Gene Reed.
Jeff Wheeler.
Barry Lee.
Jen Byron.
Mishka Haddock. We've got, as you know, a vacancy on the board, so we have some members from the community here today that have interest in joining the committee. I just want to just come up and say hello and the protocol, I guess, for this. So.
I don't think it's anything formal.
Right.
I mean, you guys can ask a few questions if you want, and however you want to do it. I think that's the way it was, we did it before.
Arthur, if you want to come on up. Hey, sir. How are you? I said welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. Unusual sitting on this side of the table. My name's Arthur Stalkis, 19 Francesca Way. Been a resident of Nottingham for 11 years now. Served as school district clerk for 4 years, planning board for 6 years, and currently filling in on the vacant Board of Assessors position. My background is in engineering and public works. Last position I had was as the Director of Operations for the Public Services Division of the City of Bangor. And in that position, I had approximately a $7 million budget, 6 departments that I was responsible for building the budget and presenting it to the City Council. I believe in fiscal conservatism. I had several budgets where the state of Maine got into economic problems, and they, as they do here in New Hampshire, they pushed the problem down to the local level. And we had to make, in some cases, significant cuts without interrupting services. And that required some creative budgeting. I'd like to offer, you know, what I have to the committee. I guess with that, are there any questions?
Any questions? Any questions?
Yes. You're familiar with the budgeting process then, or what the budget committee does?
Oh, yes.
And you have the perspective of being on having been on the planning board, which has its, do they have their own budget? They do.
Yes.
And were you active in planning that budget?
The board as a whole did that. I was the chair at the time for the last 5 years. So I directed it.
So the short answer is yes, you're familiar with the municipal budgeting process.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
And as far as budgets go, I mentioned I was fiscally conservative, and I believe in even budgets, I guess I'd say. There are some communities that will bounce from increases to decreases for sometimes political reasons, but I believe that a municipality should maintain a level, or as level a budget as they can, to avoid wide swings. Thank you. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Suzanne?
Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Eden. I've lived in town since 1990. I've had 2 children go through the Nottingham School District and Dover High School and Co-Brown, and I currently have a 2nd grader at Nottingham School. My past experience has been an office manager of a brokerage firm. I was a registered stockbroker. I have been a site director for the March of Dimes, and currently I am now, just as of today, unfortunately, promoted to billing manager of a busy OBGYN practice. I'm a coder, and that has just come out today. But I am not here to state my political affiliations whatsoever. I am clearly in my job now, involved with a budget of 12 providers of the OBGYN. They set the budget of what they want to achieve in the year based on their expenses, and I am responsible for ensuring that their surgeries, their daily procedures, their office visits, all fall within that budget. And if they do not, I'm responsible for looking at the employees and saying, okay, are we not entering the charges that need to be charged adequately? Do we need to reposition people to do this? Do we need to have the providers adjust their surgery schedules? So currently, right now, I am working within a operating budget that is already there, but I am ensued to ensure that it's met. I'm used to dealing with combatant physicians and other members of the firm, and we all work together in a collaborative effort to solve the problems, to redistribute as we need to. And it works well, and I'm open to different viewpoints because all the physicians have their very own viewpoints about how their cases need to be managed, and it's my job to implement that.
Great.
I am not involved, I have not currently been involved in any municipal budgets, so to speak. I've followed all the municipal activities closely and have never taken an active role until now, but I feel that I have the communication, the management skills, and the budget skills in the current environment that I work in to be able to be an active contributing member of the board. Any questions for me?
How you like an ICD-10?
I hate it. I hate it. No claims have actually been denied yet,
Yeah, not yet.
but they're giving us a little bit of a grace period, I think,
I
so,
hear
yeah.
No, I don't have any questions. You,
Any other questions?
With the new job, do you have time for the budget committee?
I do, because basically if I've assumed that role anyway, and now they just officially offered it to me, but I've been maintaining this for the last 3 months, so.
So you administer the budget, have you ever created one?
I have not, no.
When you mentioned you're not here to state your political affiliation, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, just, I'm not here to push any agenda. I'm here to work as a member of the committee. I'm not taking any stances. I believe in being responsible when you make a budget, but I also believe in looking forward and looking at how you can implement changes perhaps within the budget to progress the town of Nottingham forward, but within restraints.
What do you think an increase in the overall budget is appropriate?
I didn't say an increase in the overall
No,
budget.
I asked the question. What do you think an increase is in a budget going forward?
I think that's
I didn't state
difficult
anything about
question,
an
uh,
increase.
specific.
It's not impossible. It would be, I would say 2% or the cost of living, or I could say 10% over the previous years.
Well, I don't feel that's from my position to say at this point.
So you don't have a feeling on that? That
I don't think it's appropriate to ask me that right now.
I do.
I don't.
we're not asking every candidate that question.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know,
Why-
I
why
won't be
can't we-
stifled by you, especially
Enough
you.
of this, enough of this.
No,
What's
don't give
the
me that.
problem?
Why can't I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
I
but
did.
it's-
I have no problems with you
and she
asking me any
responded it.
questions.
So what's the problem?
Good. Any other questions? Anybody? Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate your consideration, thank you.
We have one other candidate, Peggy McGuire, who will be here next week. So what I'd like to do is table that so we get a chance to talk to her as well, and we can kind of decide next week. That's okay with everybody?
sounds good.
I won't be here next week,
Okay.
so I'll give you my vote.
Okay.
Before the meeting.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
How would that happen?
Can we vote?
I mean, procedurally, I don't know how
I
that
don't
would
know,
happen.
I don't know, but I'll make my vote known.
I don't have a problem with it, the chair doesn't.
No, it's fine. Just interested
You
in
guys
know.
can vote it down, that I can't vote because I'm not here, but I'll let you know. I'll let everybody know.
Okay.
No problem.
Mark,
Perfect.
wouldn't there be a representative from the select board here?
Hold on.
There may be.
Well, then it would be up to that person to cast a vote.
Could be. But that person, well, yeah, we'll have to figure it out. We'll have to figure out how the board votes then. Because I'm hearing two people and the other person would hear one. And,
Right.
yeah. We'll figure it out. If we have to have a consensus between, if we have to have Chris get a consensus or whatever.
I'm fine with that. You okay with that?
However they work it out, usually the sitting member votes.
Perfect. Nomination of the new vice chair. We have interested parties. Jeannie said you were interested.
Yes.
Is anybody else interested in being the vice chair? Really just, if I'm not here, step in and run the meeting.
Yeah.
Those are the main duties. Anybody else? No?
They're asking if you want to nominate or if anybody's interested.
Unfortunately, I'm only first year here, so I'd feel uncomfortable
Understand?
taking taking such a position with so much to learn, but possibly Michael would be interested in the position.
I wouldn't seek it, I would not run away from it.
You've done it before, haven't you?
Yeah,
Okay, can I nominate Michael? Is that how that works?
Okay.
Just a second.
A second.
Discussion?
The only thing, the reason I'm not gonna step up for that is there's also the matter of filling in Jackie's position on the Transportation Committee.
Yep.
And I had previously said to her that I would fill in for her if needed. So when that issue came up, I was gonna offer myself to fill that role.
So how do you want to run this? Do you want to see what candidates are there before you call for a vote? Or you want to vote one at a time?
We've got we've got a standing motion right now to nominate Mike, and also Gina wants to do it as well, so. I think the best thing to do is to vote. And that'll be it. Does that sound good? Start
Start with,
the vote?
you want me to make a motion to call a vote?
You would just say all those in favor of one person,
Oh,
or
I'm
all those
sorry.
in favor
Okay.
of another?
All those in favor of Michael? All those in favor of Jean? Anybody abstaining? All right. Move on to the minutes for October 15th. Get a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as drafted.
Need a second?
Second?
Any corrections, additions? I saw one on page 3, line 113. The Fernald. There's all I noticed. Give them a review.
I did notice on line 84 and 85,
Say that one more time,
lines 84 and 85.
84 and 5,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
I think we were, my statement around the adjustments related to the financial statements that are currently being audited, and that the business administrator would have to make some adjusting entries.
I thought it was in reference to the first quarter, that she wasn't completed doing all the entries, so that
I think the first quarter, she had pretty much everything in, and I thought we were talking about, I mean, it can stand that way if that's what you heard, but I'm pretty sure we were talking about adjusting entries that need to be made to the items that were being under audit. And then we were talking a bit about, yeah, I guess it's still early, but I don't know, I guess she was still gonna be making, I just see adjustments as more of a budget item. I think she'll still be making entries. So,
change adjustments
yeah,
and entries? Yep.
yeah, just to be clear between the difference of the two.
Mhm.
Line 174 on page 5. Yeah.
It's almost like your software does it every other time.
It's because they're
They're so
folders.
close.
Yeah.
I
Corey
am
was-
dyslexic, and I did it for Corey, the whole first
You
season
think
of.
you're doing FER,
It was
FER,
awful, and I
Nikki.
did it to Mike, I think, for like 6 meetings. I reversed the O and the E.
Could happen.
Good content. Nice job.
As always. Thank you. Any other changes, corrections, additions? Anybody else?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second. All in favor?
All right, on to the first draft town budget 2016.
Good evening, everyone. Must have shuffled the agenda around, I was not expecting this. Is that not waking up?
We skewed those.
All right. So, I guess what I'd like to do here is give you a quick snapshot of 2015. We talked, I think just a few weeks ago, about where we are in the current year, so there really isn't a whole lot of new news there. But I want to look at where we're going to hit and miss relative to the budget, and then give you some of the budget drivers for 2016, and see what questions you have at this point. This is a draft, this is early in the game, but we know what we don't know, so we're gonna end up pretty close to where we are today, but as you know, there'll be things that'll fluctuate between here and there. So current year, revenues have been strong. Motor vehicle registrations continue to pick up. We budgeted conservatively, but we'll beat that number. The cable franchise fee, you decided at town meeting in March to change the allocation of that revenue, so that, which we didn't budget for. We knew it was coming, but we couldn't budget for it because we were dependent upon a town meeting vote, so that money isn't in the 2015 budget, the extra money from the cable franchise fee. It will show up in 2016's budget.
Is there revenue on one of these sheets?
No, you don't have revenue for you don't have revenue for either year. Some one-time monies, the highway block grant, the rise in the gas tax created an increase in the block grant to cities and towns. That was a little bit front-loaded, so this year's number is bigger than next year's number, so in a way it's kind of one-time money. The net effect is that it's more, but the amount's gonna go down next year. Sale of real estate, we sold back a couple of tax deeded properties. We, in January, had deeded a couple of properties for unpaid taxes. The owners came current on their taxes, but essentially bought the properties back. That shows up as current year revenue. It reduces our unpaid taxes in one sense and shows up in a current year as current revenue. So it's not going to happen again at that magnitude, but that one item drove a big spike in our current year revenue. Expense-wise, legal's been quiet. We don't know of anything outstanding between now and the end of the year. You never do, but there's nothing on our radar. Insurance, we switched property and liability carriers in the middle of the year and saved a bunch of money doing that. Moved it to the same carrier as our workers' comp provider, and getting a new carrier and getting a multi-line discount at the same time ends up producing some savings for us for this year. Fuel prices are way down. You'll see that across the board. And our general assistance or welfare requests have been quiet, so that number is going to beat the budget in all likelihood as well. Expense areas where we're going to miss, we've had a rash of HVAC problems in, I think, 4 buildings. Highway vehicle maintenance and radio repairs, both in the police and fire department, are coming in more than we had hoped. To finish the year, I think we're gonna beat the revenue budget by about 12%, or 220,000. Most of that is that real estate, those real estate transactions. But the building permits also will come in a little bit above budget, motor vehicle registrations. And the operating budget, my guess today is that we'll finish at about 98%, or about 20 grand under, something like that. You know, we never know with December weather and other surprises, but I think that's where we're gonna end up.
Is that the gross amount? 20 under the gross amount? 20,000 under the gross amount. Pretty tight budgeting.
That's what we do.
Quick, going back to the previous slide.
Yep.
Is there any general assistance, any theory or philosophy or whatever going behind why those rates are down?
It'd just be improving economy.
Okay.
You know, I think folks there are fewer folks in trouble.
How much was budgeted for that?
I think
15, 20 grand.
15,000.
Yeah, and I think we only spent 2. I mean, it's
The,
really quiet.
the fact that we have a very well supported and active food pantry in this town helps that general assistance line tremendously.
Yeah, we don't buy food.
So,
Never.
right. And we also have
We have a very good administrator.
an outstanding administrator who finds all sorts of different options and ways to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, absolutely. I mean, the food pantry's been absolutely fabulous in this town, so.
The
That's good
food
to know.
pantry,
Thank you, I was just
what's
curious.
the cost to the food pantry, cost to the taxpayers for the food pantry is still 0.
yeah, it's all
Electricity and heat.
it's all volunteer.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all volunteer run. It's everything that they get there is on a volunteer basis. You got Liars that does the cruise night every year, and they're coming up with, well, I think this year might have been a little bit down because there was only like 4 cruise nights.
Bad weather was
But,
bad.
you know, it was over $1,000, so.
The Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, they help,
They're
yeah.
doing the food drive, a portion of it stays in town.
So it's an example of how things should work, actually, so.
Yeah, that's great.
What line is that, Chris, do you remember?
It's on
Down near the
page
bottom.
7.
Page 7, thank you.
302, 300 somewhere.
Who administers that?
Sue Benoit is our,
Still? Are people,
Actually, those are not in here.
yeah, it
They
is.
weren't. So I,
No, different. 293, 294 to 302.
yep.
293 to 302, or 294 to 302.
Yeah, you see the 15 in there.
What does that general assistant consist of? Would that be like fuel oil or
Yeah,
any?
so it's mortgage and rent assistance, fuel and electrical assistance those are the far and away the biggest items. Occasionally, we've got I think we may have a cremation or a burial in here for somebody that passed away. It's that kind of thing. But the vast majority of it is utility and rent assistance.
How do people know that some assistance is available?
Usually, they bump up against the social service system somewhere, and one of the first things that system does is say, have you talked to your town hall? And that's,
So there is some direction out there if somebody's looking for help.
yeah.
Good.
And anybody that you bump up against in the town government knows that it's there, so if the police or, they come into contact with somebody or fire or whatever.
One of the things that Sue makes really clear to anybody that gets assistance is that it's a very short term, we're gonna get you over the hump, like one time kind of thing, It's not an ongoing thing, it's here to, you got a crisis, get you over the crisis and.
She's a volunteer also, isn't she?
No, she's compensated a little bit.
She's
Yep.
contract, right? She's on
Yeah,
contract.
yeah. She's kind of on call for us.
on
It's
294,
when we get somebody that comes in the door asking for help, we say, here, fill this out, and we'll get you in touch with Sue, and usually Sue calls them back that afternoon and comes in and meets with them, and that all happens. It's pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's not just about getting money though, it's about helping people get on a track where they can be self-sustaining again. And I think that's probably the most value that she brings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if it
she's-
was just about getting money, it'd be a lot more than 15 grand.
Yeah. No, the real gift of doing that work well is knowing where to get other help. And that's one of the reasons that we support the social service agencies through a warrant article. It's pretty much the same thing every year, but it's a hard way to say this, but that really gets us entree into services from those organizations. They're counting on us to support what they do, and they're kind of on call for us in a lot of ways. And when Sue picks up the phone and says, hey, I've got somebody that needs X service, we're getting it in part because we support those agencies. And it may be that some years we don't have anybody that goes to a homeless shelter, but when you need it, it's there. And it saves us a fortune when it does come up. So that's ideally how that system works. I do have a little bit of news for you. About an hour and a half ago, we locked in our tax rate for 2015. Technically, it's still preliminary because DRA has not pushed the buttons to make it official, but there really isn't anything left to change. The selectmen signed off on that this afternoon. The 2015 tax rate is going to be $20.34 per thousand. The tax base went up after the revaluation quite a bit, went up 9%. So the tax rate would have been expected to go down, and it did 7%. I have a cheat sheet for you, which may be more than you want, but it'll give you some idea of where that number comes from. I expect we will have all the documents signed and whatnot early next week, and then tax bills will go out probably late next week. So you have that to look forward to. I failed to keep one of those for myself, and you're going to ask me a question about it. There you
Yeah,
go. You're only one?
okay, there's no, you get a bunch of them.
There you go. So I don't know how far into this you want to get, but since I had it and since it's fresh, the big movers are more on the revenue side, both town and school. This does not reflect funds retained in contingency by the school district, which it's cooked into the numbers. I think it was 60,000 that you,
Yes.
so that's in here. I just didn't show it because it doesn't show up on the paperwork that I see.
It's just netting with what we return to the taxpayers? Like,
Everything else was returned,
right,
and that, so that comes off the school total.
right.
When you say return, where does that money go?
It's not cash. It's not cash that we send to the school and then the school sends back to us. It's math.
Let me rephrase that. Where does it show up?
It's netted out of the appropriation number. This is a net number essentially of the appropriation less what was unspent.
Does it show up in the general fund?
It's not cash, so it's kind of like it hasn't been taxed yet in a way. Yeah, so it's not cash moving around from one place to another.
But it was appropriated, not used, whether it's the school or the town. Taxes were collected on it, revenue goes towards it. So why doesn't it show up someplace?
I think it lags. I'm not going to explain it well because I don't understand it perfectly, but it lags the tax process with the school fiscal year being offset, but from the town's and tax year, we're kind of, since it lags or leads, I'm not sure which, this math is leading the tax effort, the tax rate that's going to be set in December, so we're essentially not taxing for that amount.
So this is like this will correct for the June rate was an estimate, and then you get this rate, and this corrects essentially for everything, and it takes into consideration whether it be town or school. In the school's case, it was roughly 400,000 or so that went back, I believe. So that does impact tax rate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we were hoping, it would make a significant impact to the taxpayers.
The year over, I can get you the year over year, you know, whatever, it's called returned to offset taxes, but isn't actually cash.
All right, so you're saying that the,
Unappropriated.
so the 450,000 that was returned back affects the tax base, where the 65,000 is for the appropriations, is what was left over, and it kind of gets lagged back until June?
The 60,000, are you talking about the 60?
Right.
The 60 is, the school has a, it's not
Reserve
unspent,
fund.
it's, what's the word you use for it?
It's,
Unassigned?
it's, you know, I can get the exact word off of warrant.
Think of it
but
as a
it's-
fund balance.
Yeah, we can save, we can take up to 1%. Like, if
Right.
we had a fund balance of, money left over of $500 or so thousand, and then we have to go through the warrants in order that were approved by the voters and pay those out in order. And then at that point, if there are funds left, we can vote to take some money, up to 1% based on our warrant article, to put away for emergency. And it has to come back here and be voted on by this board, and it has to go to the DOE also. So it really isn't, it's not a slush fund or anything, it's just there for safety. We voted to take 60 out. So that's the best explanation I can provide on that.
Gotcha.
What's the other multiplier? 1% or 1.5%? I
The
forget what it is.
law spoke to 2%, I believe.
Yeah,
but
I
we
know it
did-
was under, but what's the other multiplier?
the
So
oth- I'm not sure what
it's,
you mean.
it's 1% of something.
There was the maximum you could have in the account, I think it was like 200,000.
Yeah, it was the
250
total,
or something.
I'd have to go back and get the exact language off the warrant, and I can look that up while we're talking. But it's a net value
Right,
number.
I didn't understand what the 1% of, what the,
Yeah.
what the thing is. It said something about assessed value.
I thought it was some net value, yeah.
There was a few
So that's
conditions
why-
also.
Yes, tell me.
I remember it was either 200,000 or 250,000 was the maximum that could be in that account. So if they took a 1%, and that was gonna make them over the 250, they couldn't hit the full amount, only up to that $250,000 cap.
Right.
But I can't remember the actual value.
We just did the 60, and it was the net value. Yeah, she had the actual number, and I don't have it right in front of me.
And that, I don't believe that accumulates. That is a one-year thing, so that's not gonna grow year over year.
Thought it was gonna grow
Capped,
up to that maximum amount.
Oh, is that how?
Up to that max.
It's capped at like at the 250,000, right?
Right.
So once they reach that.
Until
amount,
it
you
builds to that point was my understanding. I'm willing to be corrected, though.
I think what we should do when the school board reports next week is get the exact language from that warrant article.
Fine
I
with
didn't
me.
come prepared with that tonight, I apologize, didn't expect that.
No, I understand.
So what I will do is bring the actual language and the actual calculation for our next meeting as part of the presentation.
Which brings me to our next question, Chris. I did the CIP thing last week, and you had a great display in there of the fund balance being in the range recommended by DRA. Has that changed at all?
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
see this
be-
plus 26%, is that,
The Government Finance Officers Association recommends that our unassigned fund balance be between, which unassigned fund balance is cash. It's our reserve in a sense. Between 8 and 17% of our annual appropriation. There's a little math that gets to a number, but it's based on our school plus town appropriations plus state tax obligations. We, after today, or after 2015 comes to, we'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 9.5% of that. 9.4, I think we left off at today.
what was the range again, please?
8 to 17,
And you'll be at what?
9.4.
So we're getting there.
We moved up.
The trend has been getting it in that range.
Since 2012, we've been working to get into that right
Yeah,
range.
you had brought that graph last year with the box showing where we
We were low.
Where you're getting back into.
Yeah, and now we're coming back. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what is all that? So here's what this means to a typical property taxpayer, typical resident property taxpayer. The median home price in town is somewhere around $270,000, at least it was last year. The assessments of properties in town in total moved up by about 8%. That's different from place to place, obviously. Home to home, it's different. Not everybody's at 8%, but in aggregate. So if that is typical for the typical homeowner, you can see the net tax bill effect that will find its way into your mailbox next week as about $53.
You better clarify that.
An additional $53.
There we go.
You're real excited there.
So the tax rate goes down, but it gets multiplied by a higher value that was assessed.
Correct.
For some.
For most,
For some.
yes.
For most, is that?
I think it is
I haven't
most.
done a survey, but
I have not either to the level that our Board of Assessors might, but the most went up.
My understanding was that the land, base value of the land went from, I'm gonna say a number here, and maybe from 60 to 80 as a base on a 2-acre parcel. That's what was explained to me. Something that the base valuation of a lot, based on the 2 acres, because that's what we have as a minimum or what have
Yes.
you, that changed to 80,000, and that was where the majority of this increase came from, in the land.
I believe the statement that the majority came from the land is correct. The amount, I can't quote to you without looking it up
Yeah,
again.
I'm pulling from memory as well, but I seem to remember that there's a base for that 2-acre lot, and then it varies based on whatever size your lot is.
And other factors, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, but most of the change in value was in, well, there was a big change in utility values, and there was a big change in land values. Those are the two things that moved the number the most.
Do we tax the utility poles?
Oh,
I know that's a touchy topic.
we are in court. Yeah. We're in court on that, along with 30 or 40 other towns. Can you answer that better than I can?
No, I can't, because I just read a lengthy letter from the attorney that's covering several towns, and it's, yes, that one.
There's another one coming.
Yep. And it's in court, and they're going back and forth, and I don't expect a resolution anytime soon.
Yeah,
In the meantime, we are taxing, though.
yeah.
In the meantime, we're also paying as consumers.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. That's where it's gonna come from.
Well, there's a little line item on the phone bills for the amount toward municipal taxes.
It's not a little number either. Dang.
So the short answer, Tony, is it's very complicated, and there's reams of paperwork on it.
So ask us again in 4 years.
We're not alone. We know that.
That's the good thing. And it's not costing much in legal fees, because the towns that are affected have grouped together, for the most part, under one attorney at this point, but there are some that are going it alone that have more resources. So,
Yeah, it's been a blip. The cost of that suit has really been,
thank goodness.
yeah. Well, it wouldn't be worth it at some point, but, they expect, that decision isn't expected to clear the state Supreme Court until 2017,
4 years.
so.
Because that'll give time for all the appeals to work through.
There were actually at least two parts of that, too, was taxing the rights of way and taxing poles and conduits, which have broken off into two separate litigious avenues now, too, so.
If you'd like to become the town expert on that subject, come on in and
Yeah,
we'll.
please.
If the towns lose, will we have to refund?
That is one scenario,
That's a
yes.
good
that we
question.
will- That we will have to,
Ergo, so getting into that 9%, 10% range.
we talked about that in the context of our overlay for this year. Do we need to set aside extra money in the event that we do lose and all that? And the guidance from our attorneys was, no, think about it next year, because it's not gonna happen this year. It's a big number, though.
Right.
Should we be making a reserve for that, on the potential? The
That's kind of
attorney,
what the fund balance is for, and if we go to a if it goes to a settlement, if we lose outright, then we're gonna have a cash problem. If it goes to a settlement, the settlement will work that out for it. It'll drag out the payments, or whatever it'll do. It won't hurt us in that.
That's why part of why we want to raise that fund balance to,
good point.
you know, so you got a little
It's
bit
an
of
unknown.
cushion in case, it's really unknown, and
Easy.
not something you want to put a reserve fund against, because then that reserve fund is strictly toward that, right?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't make any sense. So you just play it out, you know, play it out and be fiscally responsible, and we'll be okay. Right?
How much could it be? Let me ask you this question, can you calculate it? Because if you can't calculate it, you can't reserve for it anyway.
It's tough. It's three tax, well, no, we could do it. It's 3 tax years on a certain base, so far.
Yeah.
It's 2011, 12, 13? Something, you know.
Something like that.
So yes, we could calculate it. But I would be surprised if it went all the way to the end and we lost and got creamed.
Yeah.
We're gonna settle before that happens. If it's headed that way, we're gonna settle, and we're gonna settle in a way that, you know, helps us ease through that transition.
For what it's worth, the attorney has stated, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, one of the letters, that he wouldn't expect the court to come forward and say, pay it tomorrow,
Correct.
the whole thing.
Right.
We'll be fine. We'll be all right.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a state Supreme Court decision, and it's 30 or 40 municipalities. The state Supreme Court's not.
And it's taken a political bent. So,
Yes, that's good.
Anyhow,
I think the major thing to take away from that tax thing, though, is don't plan on your individual tax bill going down or up. It's based on each individual property.
yes,
The average
yes, this is just pegged at a typical.
is the best of the worst and the worst of the best.
I didn't even use the word average, because I don't know if it's the average, it's typical, so.
I'm keeping in mind that this is going out to the general public, and I would like it understood that you gotta look at your own tax bill.
Yes.
The $20.34 per thousand.
2034 you can count on.
Yep. Okay.
And that will be computed from the first of the year. Because the last tax bill was an estimated tax bill. This will be the final tax bill, which will correct any over or under charges that were issued in the first bill.
That's a big part right there. Yeah.
So it's something that complicates it a little bit further too.
Yes. You can also count on it arriving in the mail.
Promptly.
Okay, shall we move on to 2016?
Yes.
Anything else? We are not plotting any major service changes or program changes that would impact the budget. Little things here and there. We're obviously enjoying a period of low inflation. We have some kind of favorable basis in 2015 with the projects and capital purchases that we made this year. We don't have the same level of equipment purchases coming up in 2016, so that will make this process a little easier. You know, we have some computer spending this year. We had a hydrant project. We had a new baler at the recycling center. So we have some of those small things, but not as much in 2016. So that makes this a little easier for us. The revenue, you don't have revenue numbers yet because I haven't projected any, but we do know that the state highway money is going to go down, and we anticipate that vehicle registration and cable franchise fees are going to go up. You'll see those numbers after December 31st when we have a full year to work with.
Chris, why cable franchise fees going up?
The budgeted amount is going to go up
Yeah,
because we will capture the change that we made in March.
okay.
We did, our current year 2015 budget did
There's
not.
not a change to the cable franchise fees that people
Nope.
are paying or that Comcast.
No, it's just the split in where the money goes. Some of it goes to the general fund, some of it goes to, well, some of it goes to offset the current year, some of it goes to the general.
Sue, are you in position yet to use any of that?
We are definitely looking at it. We've asked the administration to go, the two things that we think are the highest priority are getting that cafeteria working and wired so that if we have large meetings, it will be live. And also the audio in the library doesn't work very well. So those are the two primary points. They're also looking at equipment, and I think there was a camera that our videographer was speaking about.
I worked with him, or he came with me when we
Brian?
when we went and did this stuff, so he's familiar with
Yeah,
what we
he's real
did
good.
here. So,
For the benefit of the public, would you give the background of how and only how the cable franchise fees can be spent? And why you're focusing on things that you are?
We're focusing on the things that we are, because those are the highest priority items, and we can only use the cable franchise fees to improve the technology in our meeting places.
The broadcasting equipment
Right.
technology.
Yep.
it's there to support the
I understand,
Peg
but I
channels.
wanted everybody else to understand too. And the motor vehicle registrations, what makes you think those are gonna go up?
They're trending up.
Trending, yeah.
Yeah, this is 2 years in a row, we've seen big jumps. And we haven't budgeted for big jumps, we've budgeted for small jumps, so.
because our 16-year-old vehicles are breaking.
I mean, well, some of it's inherent, I mean, you know, cars get bigger, heavier, more expensive, the fees that go with them get.
Yeah.
And the fees are predicated on manufacturer's suggested retail price.
Retail prices and weight, and I don't know what
So
else.
as the
yeah.
car prices go up and the
Right.
people buy new cars, the fees go up.
Right, and,
On
you know,
newer
as the
cars.
economy gets better, more people buy new cars, they buy, you know, whatever it is.
Or more people in
buy more
town.
cars per person, whatever.
I'm getting a bicycle. It's got studs
Does
on
any,
it.
just because we're talking tangents, does anybody want to take a guess at how many motor vehicle registrations the town clerk has done this year?
We have a population of 4,000 something,
We have a population of 5,000.
5,000.
Probably 4,000 of them drive.
I'm sorry?
Probably 4,000 of them are
drive.
old enough to
Yeah,
drive.
based on the school.
Right.
Probably 8,000.
8,000 registrations at least.
Yeah, it's like 6 through this point in the year.
A chicken in
Two-car
every pot and
families.
2 cars in every garage.
More-
1,000
more-
registrations, not new registrations.
More, yes, more registrations, we have more than one car per person,
Yeah.
yeah.
Per person,
Spare car,
We have more than one vehicle.
not per
person.
household,
Correct,
per person.
correct.
the parts car.
Anyway.
Guilty.
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 One gets
They're all
dirty, you
paid
can't
for
drive
their
that
work.
one.
Okay. Any of them in the yard? All right, sorry, no more tangents. So, 2016, as always, our budget's driven by personnel. We have no planned new positions. We are currently fully staffed and have budgeted to remain that way. Our retirement rates went up a few months ago. Not a huge hit, but they did go up for our police and fire programs. Our health insurance benefits, those numbers just came in last week. Our premium rates are going up 4.2%. And we also had 2 eligible employees move on to benefits that we actually didn't budget for this year. They're eligible for them, they just weren't taking them in 2014. So both of those things are gonna move that number. The long-term prognosis on that is mixed, but not too scary. We think we're on track to stay under the Cadillac tax. At this point, we have 2 more years to get there, but we think we're gonna be okay there.
What are the ramifications of being designated the Cadillac tax?
You would choose to cut benefits rather than pay the Cadillac tax. It's a significant financial hit. You know, for every dollar over the cap, it's like a 30-cent penalty or something ridiculous like that. So, in all likelihood, you would pull back benefits. You'd spend less and give the employees lower benefits. It's so costly that you wouldn't do it.
You sat through an extensive seminar on that at the New Hampshire Municipal Association, didn't you?
I did.
Bless your heart.
It's an hour and a half I'll never get back.
I thought it was good, though.
It was all informative, yeah, I mean,
It's a little thick.
but long.
So for the first time ever, this town has a full-time lieutenant in the fire department. And he's got 2 people that are plugging into him, which is a significant move forward for us, versus the way that we were managing it in the past. So James Calderon was promoted this year.
Make sure I understand that. He's full-time?
Full-time.
One of our full-time
One of our
firefighters.
full-timers was promoted to lieutenant.
He's also an EMT?
Yeah.
All of our firefighters are EMTs. Our career firefighters are
All of them.
firefighter EMTs.
So he's wearing 2 hats and lieutenant designation for the fire department.
Yeah.
Does it mean you've added another full-time position?
No.
So just a
No,
different?
we just promoted, we had 3 full-timers.
Mhm.
He's got the leadership capabilities and he's shown it, and the chief recommended him for promotion to lieutenant, so that, because the chief, you know, has a full-time job, right? And so, James is there running the day-to-day, and, works out really well.
So, as promised last year, there's no cost of living adjustment here in the budget. All of our wage adjustments are done, will be done through the merit pool, which is on line 4? Line 4 on your sheet there.
The 2015, excuse me, man.
Yep,
The 2015 budget is for 40,000 for that merit pool?
yes, and that won't get spent, it's getting spent across other line items where it shows up. If we make a merit award to an employee in the police department, that incremental money is actually being spent out of where it belongs. So those payroll lines will look like we've spent more in them, we've spent more in them. So this is how we intended to kind of set aside some money to make those pay raises, but won't spend anything from that line. Is that clear? I know we covered that.
It's a pool, put the pool in one place.
Yes.
So you don't wanna put a pool in every single
So
department.
this is the only apartment that has that pool?
That's right.
Yes.
And then we allocate from the pool to the individuals,
Yes.
right? So you'll see the individuals in their departments the department salaries will look higher, but it's because they were taken out of the pool.
So as a budget committee.
It's a way to do it without, you know,
But as a budget committee, how do we know what to budget for next year? With no breakdown of where the pool went to, for example?
you shouldn't
Would you care?
really care exactly where the pool goes to. You should care that we're looking to have a pool that is on average about 3% increase.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
3% of those
Well, that's-
employees that are eligible for merit raises.
On average, yeah. So some people may get nothing and some people may get 5, you know, but it's all based on merit. It's all based on performance plans and how they do against it and,
Metrics and whatnot.
you know, metrics and then, I mean,
My basic question was, how do you come up with a number? And you just told me approximately 3%
yeah,
of
if you look
the
at,
total eligible employees.
Yes, it's pegged directly to that,
right,
that number. All right, capital equipment, I'm gonna keep moving unless you tell me to stop. The capital improvement program process is underway. I believe Gene went through a lot of that with you at a recent meeting. The only significant capital purchase in the 2016 budget is a police cruiser. We're on track, pretty much replacing one of those each year. They last about 4 years, and we replace one a year typically. We're gonna capture some savings with insurance that I talked about already. Workers' comp, we have, for the last several years, enjoyed a rebate or a premium holiday to the tune of about $20,000 a year. We never know if we're going to get that the following year, so it just kind of hangs out there. So geez, I hope we get it again, but as part of a pool, we don't know until really late in the game if that's gonna come through, so. That's just a wild card that,
That's for overcharges in the past or non-adherence to something.
or the pool performs better than anticipated.
Oh.
Yeah. Energy, materials, utilities, our bids for heating fuels came back in line with the market, much better.
That's great.
You won't see the budget lines move that much because we cut it too close this year, frankly. We're gonna come right up against our heat budget. And you've seen in here already, it was a cold winter, but we have not budgeted those line items down by 25% because the fuel cost is gonna go down 25%.
we already had last year drop
We
down.
dropped them last year, and I think we probably went a little too far, but we're gonna come in close in 2015. So generally, we moved down in 2016, but not by a huge amount. Fuel, we also captured some savings in fuel. Electricity is mixed. Our contracts, one went up 5%, the other one down 5%. It's gonna net out to be about 0 change. Asphalt, we don't know about. The way that typically works is we put a number in based on what we know it costs now, and if it comes in, if the asphalt price is higher come next summer, we will overlay a shorter distance of road. That's how we adjust to that, and if it comes in lower, we will do an extra half mile somewhere. So we plan on spending that amount of money. It's the distance of road or the distance and width of road that ends up being a variable. Our road salt price is locked in at 3% higher than last year. Telephone, we switched just a couple months ago, most of our lines to VoIP and captured some savings in this current year, so that's not gonna change much next year, but we did save this year. Other budget drivers, 2016, we have 4 elections. We have town meeting, we have the presidential primary in February, the state primary in September, and the November general election. All, well, 2 of them humongous events, 2 of them big events. That drives our payroll spending on election workers and the cost of programming the machine, printing ballots, things like that. We're gonna move to a direct deposit offering for our payroll employees. Right now, everybody's paid in a paper check. I know that may seem antiquated to some of you in the real world, but it works, but it's pretty onerous for our department heads and our employees, and our selectmen have to come in a certain time frame every day, every week, and sign payroll, and it's a real hassle for employees that have payday off, constantly coming in. And what they want to get paid, they got to come to the town office or come into work. So we're going to launch that hopefully in January. We're going to replace the server in the town office, which is 6 years old now, 7 years old, or will be 7 years old next year. Our backup system is, technically it works, but not really.
What is it?
Tapes.
Tapes.
Take a tape, put it in the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You remember those?
Yeah, 1987 called, they want their backup system back. Yeah.
It's a nice cartridge load. You stick it in and it goes.
Yeah, all that.
Wow.
Manually changed.
You failed to impress anybody.
Dinner and the show.
If you feed the hamsters, it doesn't take too long to get the backup.
Got the
done.
message.
But the Historical Society is really going for it.
There are some cloud services out there that cater to municipalities.
Yeah, well, I think
And they're
we'll,
encrypted and backed up, and
Carbonite?
it may be cheaper than even replacing the tape unit.
now, well, I've looked at the volume we're doing. It's not that cheap. Maybe some vendor I don't, but the big name vendors don't actually end up being that cheap for us.
Yeah. There's a wide variation in rates between
Yeah.
providers, so it's worth shopping around.
Speaking of 1988, we're going to redesign the website. No, it's not
Cool.
that old. 98, yes. Yeah, we hope to launch that very soon and maybe even have it up in time for town meeting, when we see the most traffic on the town website. So that'll be a bit of a race, but we're going to try and get that done. Moving to a platform that is much easier for us to update and tweak as we need to. We don't have the capability to restructure the site, and our traffic, the things that our residents are coming to the town website for are the things that are most buried in the website. And we can't fix that in the platform that we're in. And the platform that we're in is not enabled for anything other than a computer screen. So if you are using an iPad, you know this, if you're using an iPad or something, you want to see something on it, it's a nightmare. So we're going to fix both of those things.
So you don't have direct access to the town's webpage? You
Oh,
have to-
we use a platform that, we subscribe to the service that,
Remote login.
yeah, we don't have programmers on our staff. We just use the template and it's actually kind of email based. Isn't this a fair way to describe what you're doing when you update it? It's,
Just submit something, and the hamster at the other end takes it out.
so we're moving to a Drupal based platform.
Drupal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna be cloud hosted.
Yes.
Currently, our website is hosted at our service provider on a server. And it's gonna be it doesn't,
Different hamster.
it's gonna be in a
Yeah.
tier 4 data center. If you know what tier 4 is, right? So, the site will be up all the time.
No more
Because it's so
hamsters.
important.
On duct tape.
That may be overkill.
It's gonna be as reliable as the greatest financial transactions in the world.
We've also budgeted for the demolition of a couple of tax deeded properties. One of them is a mobile home on Rogier that's been there for a very long time. We own it, and it's just a health hazard. And the other one is a home on Freeman Hall, the intersection of Freeman Hall and Kennard, right? We don't own that yet. We anticipate tax deeding that in January. It needs to be condemned, and we're planning to take it and demolish it next year. So it's odd to talk about taking something that we don't own and planning to destroy it, but the woman that owned it has passed away, and we're pretty confident it's gonna end up being ours.
Make it clear that these are unoccupied
Oh, yes, sorry. yeah.
Buildings.
Yes, they're health and safety hazards. They're not just unoccupied. They're,
Beyond that.
so we've got that cooked in here. Those are costs. If the town decides to, after demolition, turn around and resell those properties, we will recover anything that we spend on the demolition. So we're paying it up front. We're gonna get it back if we sell it.
So both of those demos include land, I'm gonna say obviously,
Yes.
a lot.
The mobile home lot on Rogier is tiny. It's 25 feet wide. Rogier is carved up real tiny. But it is a lot that we could sell once the trailer is removed. And the lot on Kennard and Freeman Hall is presumably a good house lot. We're not aware of any problems with the
On the corner.
lot, so. What's that?
On a corner.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a corner lot, so
Yeah, that's the main.
we would assume that it would have some value in the market once we
Nice
clear it.
neighborhood, too.
It is a nice lot, I just don't know how big it is.
It's a legit house lot. It's, you know,
2-acre lot.
yeah, it's buildable.
Nice.
Okay, what else do we have? Other things that we don't necessarily have hard numbers for, but are works in progress in the budget process here. The planning board is evaluating our impact fee program and considering purchasing studies on the, what's the word? The price of an impact fee is based on a study. We have to buy the studies. And the planning board's still working on whether they're going to move forward with those studies and therefore impact fees.
That's mandatory after every 6 years?
It's not mandatory, but if you don't have one, the first person that is supposed to pay an impact fee is gonna challenge it and we're gonna lose. So it's nearly mandatory, yes.
And the cost for that is?
Well, to maintain our existing impact fees, which are directed to the school and the fire department, it's about $4,600, $4,700 in impact fees with a new home construction. To update that study and stay current with that program is like $4,500, or maybe $5,000 for the study, to keep the program alive if the planning board chooses to do so. They're also considering public works and recreation impact fees, which would require a separate and additional study, and that's the piece that we're waiting on.
And the police, I think they talked about.
Oh, it's police,
I was at
is it
that
police
last
and
meeting with
recreation?
They
Or is it
said
all
that
three?
some of the people that were there initially spoke, and they said that it was initially contemplated to add recreation, public works, as you say, and then police as well.
Yeah.
And so that was put out there. I don't know I don't think any decisions were made, though.
No, we're waiting to hear what the cost of those studies would be. I suspect they're gonna be prohibitive relative to what you can collect in impact fees for those areas, given our needs, but we don't know. Since we don't have a hard number, that's still on this list of things that we have to figure out.
How would that appear?
The cost of the study itself. We have
Yes,
to pay
how
a
would that
consultant.
appear?
That would be in the planning, in one of the planning lines, PB planner.
I think it's road 97.
We have a number in there now. Yes, line 97. We have 5,000 in there now, which will be directed to that update of the existing stuff. If we need to add to that, it will be for new studies, for new impact fees.
Would that increase the impact fee to a new residence?
Yes.
It's already at $5,000 at a round number?
Just under that, yes.
And we'd pay, I think, either $2,500 or $2,700 of that overall cost to redo the.
So, yeah, we hadn't heard formal confirmation of that, but the school is gonna kick in for the study, so.
We have to add that, we were talking about that for our budget, so they broke it out on the analysis of the cost, what it would be for each party.
Does that mean the planning budget will come down by that much?
No, our revenue will go up. We'll anticipate the revenue in the budget.
School?
Yeah.
So they'll pay it and we'll pay you, and then you recover it.
Or we could, we could game it and split the invoice somehow. It's all coming out of the same.
Doesn't make any difference to the taxpayer.
No, it's coming out of
As
the same.
long, as
pocket.
long as the net is 5.
Well, the net to the town is gonna be 2,500. In all likelihood. or whatever the school number
Yeah,
was.
I didn't bring that paperwork with me, but they had it broken out.
It's that ballpark.
Whose decision is it to continue the impact fee program? Is that the planning board?
Yeah, it's a planning board decision. You know, anytime there's spending involved, it's gonna come through the selectmen in here, but, it's part of the zoning ordinance, so that's in the purview of the planning board. All right, other things we're moving towards, online registration services for our recreation programs. We're evaluating vendors right now, and expect to have something up in time for our spring program, so people can register online. They can manage their scheduling and stuff online. We're doing that all essentially manually. There is a computer involved, but it's for the consumer, for the resident. It's a paper-based system where they're filling out a form with every participation in every program and writing a check, and we're going to hopefully ease that burden for them. That will impact the rec budget in ways that we don't know for sure yet. There could be some, there could be software costs, there could be credit card charges, there could be payroll savings associated with it. We had a summertime person that spent a lot of their time just doing that kind of work, so that's all still in the mix, and we're still working on.
There will be software costs, because anytime you do any kind of an online transaction involving a credit card or a bank account, all the equipment involved, the back-end equipment, servers that handle that on the town end, whatever, have to be compliant with the PCI DSS regulations.
Yeah, we're gonna farm that out. We're not doing that in-house. We're gonna buy that somewhere else.
We'll have a merchant account somewhere that's PCI compliant.
Yeah, we don't have a merchant account right now. We don't have any credit card capabilities for anything.
Might be able to do it through PayPal, by the way.
Yes, that is one of the things that we're looking at, and we're also talking to the town clerk's office about credit card functions in there. So we may, you know, if we're gonna go down the road of a merchant account, we'll see what that looks like. Our contract for assessing services is up, and our Board of Assessors and Selectmen are both chatting about that. Hopefully, they're getting together. We have a contract offer from our current vendor, Avatar. That is the price that's built into this budget right now. Their price has actually come down just a scotch from the current contract, but we haven't locked in on anything there, so that's still up in the air. And we need to tighten up pricing on a couple things. We're gonna built into this budget are replacement of shingles on the entire library and over the police station and food pantry in this building. We did the roof above us here this year. The library roof is in tough shape, particularly in the back, and the roof over the police station is even worse. Last winter was tough. We had leaks in the police department last winter. The ice was real tough on that roof. And if you look at it, you'll see the shingles are shot. So those are both built in here. We need to get a harder number on that. But in last year we had a separate warrant article to do this roof. So that wasn't in the operating budget, but we have it built into this number here currently.
How old are those roofs?
The library is turning 15, is that right? New library? And I don't know about the shingles on the police department, they're probably 12 anyway. And
The ones over that we replaced here did not last very long.
No.
We didn't get nearly the life out of them we expected. I think they were like 10.
yeah,
Wow.
And they need to be done about 3 years ago, actually. If you looked at them, they were peeling and curling and just
yep.
a mess.
But you're gonna budget for it differently this year, then? You're gonna not do a warrant article?
That's up to the selectmen. We're just trying to put everything out there as, you know, this is where we sit right now. They may choose to break it out later.
We're going back and forth on it.
This is first draft.
First draft, it's still an open conversation. I mean, we know we need to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, if you put in a warrant article, then one of the arguments is, well, you know, the townspeople could vote it down and then you can't get it done, right? But you know you need to get it done. The other side of that argument is, don't you want to be open and transparent to the town with any of the additional expenses? So, you know, the discussion at the board level and, you know.
Yeah, the biggest risk is that if it, for some reason, failed and we needed to do something to it, no means no.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's a tight box for us, so.
And you have a blue tarp over the police station
Yeah.
for the next year.
Yeah.
And lots of
Or
buckets.
Selectman Dana's suggestion was you can vote for the roof or you can vote for buckets. And
Right.
Just put drains in the floor.
But the possibility that the town would vote down a warrant
Slim.
like that is very, very slim. Very slim. So it's kind of a, go something.
And if you know they're gonna vote for it, why break it out anyway? That's another-
Yeah, that's the,
Anyway, so it's in here now.
Circle.
You may see it come out later.
Are there any capital reserve funds? Is that an eligible expense, or does that have to be more of
There's
a
no
current
capital
average?
reserve funds
right,
designated for that
for
purpose.
that purpose, right.
We have one for HVAC, which I don't think and it's not enough. There's only got like $9,000 in it, so there's nothing set aside for the library. There's no trust for the library that can handle that. And then the bigger dollar warrant articles that we're anticipating outside of the operating budget, the fire and rescue is proposing a Quint or a ladder truck plus, and I think you covered a lot of that stuff in your CIP summary. I expect you'll be talking with the chief about that. That's on the radar, as well as additional reserve appropriations. The CIP process is telling us, well, it's telling me, and I think it's telling everybody else, that we are not prepared for 2017 to 2019 in our capital equipment program, particularly in the highway department. We have more vehicles coming to the end of their lives in the 17 to 19 window than we have funds to replace. We emptied our highway vehicle trust fund last year to buy a dump truck, so we're at zero essentially, and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of need coming in the next 3 or 5 years. So I suspect that the selectmen will recommend moving up in that reserve fund and maybe a couple others in our savings. That's still to be determined, but those are things that move taxes, they don't move the operating budget. So, boil it all down, the bottom line number here is operating expense 3.63 million, up 1.3% from last year's budgeted number on draft one.
Was that inclusive of what you were just talking about?
It's inclusive of the roof, it is not inclusive of the separate warrant article items that we,
For the truck.
yes.
But it is in there for the roof.
All of the things in the works in progress list here
Yep.
have plug numbers in the operating budget already.
Okay.
And the warrant article items will not show up in here. So that's, like I said, we know what we don't know, and we're close with this number. We're gonna end up close to this number.
So the 1.3% amounts to about $40,000.
Increase in the budget.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work, and I can tell, it's detailed. Thank you. Presentation was awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know where you wanna go from here, which of the department heads you wanna meet directly with, and, when we do round two, I don't know what your calendar looks like for round two. When we have dates for department heads, but, we're open to whoever you wanna bring in.
Every year.
I know that the fire chief is gonna be on your list because of the capital purchase, but I don't know, if you wanna see everybody, if you wanna see select people, and you don't have to decide that now, but just keep us.
Just need a tentatively in the schedule to have, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, Dawn, you can help me out. We made sure it's fire and police in the same day, and highway and library?
It's usually dependent upon the
Availability.
schedule of summit, yeah.
Police is gonna be real quick.
Yeah.
Police is gonna be real quick. Fire, you're gonna wanna spend time. The operating budget isn't changing a lot, but we're all gonna wanna spend time on the Quint. Right, on that warrant article, so, and then highway is not gonna change a lot, but it's a CIP thing. for, you know, equipment coming up. So I would just, as long as you do fire and highway on separate nights, then I think you're gonna be fine. Because library's gonna be straightforward too.
In rec.
And rec,
But there's no saying you have to see everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's, you know, in
Right.
the department budget
Right.
that says, you know, it doesn't try not to say, oh, yeah, we need to see them or talk to them. You don't have to see them, so it's entirely up to you.
The library's separate, right, separate, kind of,
yeah,
unto
they
itself.
kind of run on their own.
Yeah.
Rec, I would actually think that rec you'd wanna do on a different night as well, because you got some things coming down the pipe in rec that I know everybody wants to talk about.
Right, right. The field marshal.
But one of them is this, like, this, equipment, rec equipment, $2,600 budget for, is that part of that software package we're talking about?
Yeah, that's really a plug at this point. It's a,
So what I'm gonna do, we'll do the fire one day, we'll do highway. Maybe go those three first and find out when they're available. And then we can go through the other line items of the budget and decide next week if we wanna have other folks come in.
Sorry, say it again.
So we'll have fire, let's schedule fire.
Yep.
And maybe we can do police at the same time since that'll be short. And then we can coordinate to have some time with rec to talk about the potential needs or changes.
In the library.
In library, yeah.
And I don't know if you guys wanna talk to the recycling center, but that's pretty much, we've done pretty much everything that we're gonna do to that. I don't think that there's no more improvements to the building that you can do, right?
Yeah, they did the improvement with the baler and.
yeah, new door this year, and yeah.
And they moved the door from the
Right.
side so you can go
Yeah.
directly in and out. I don't know if you guys have been in
It's
the back.
fantastic.
It's awesome.
Slow traffic, it's too much easier, it really is.
15 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
Concrete pads are working out under the
Yeah.
dumpsters, it's
Yeah.
not a mud pit anymore.
I don't know how much you guys you all use the recycling center, but over the last 3 years, there's just a phenomenal group of people who've done a great job. Not just the people that work at the recycling center, but also the recycling subcommittee that we put in place a couple years ago. And there was some contention. I mean, there was some real contention over various things, but it all came together, and you know, the people that did all the work.
A market difference to the better.
Yeah, they just did a great job. Absolutely.
I have a couple of questions if I could.
Yeah, I don't like this too, go ahead.
You never mentioned Marston Lee property, where's that stand in budgetary terms?
There's no spending on the radar at this point. The selectmen on Monday discussed taking some money out of the rec revolving fund to pay for an engineering study and a feasibility study for an actual plan. So we may see something by March come out of that process. But the selectmen haven't seen anything yet. MPEC, you know, has just done a request for proposals and is about to interview engineering and design firms. So I don't anticipate anything in the operating budget related to Marston.
What would it be, a warrant article if something comes forward? Yes?
Yes.
The Crown Vic from the fire department, formerly of the police department, is up for sale. What are they gonna use instead of it?
We bought a pickup truck this year, utility pickup truck.
Yes,
So when in the process of saying we need, you know, if we get a utility pickup truck, we can cover all the functions of that command car with that truck, so we don't need to own and maintain that car anymore. I'm not gonna say it's coming to the end of its useful life, because it's, you know, for sale.
no, it's up for sale, right?
It's older.
There's a lot of value left there.
There is absolutely a lot of value left. It's just too attractive to leave in the barn all day.
Oh, come on, the reality is, we just don't wanna pay the registration fees on it anymore.
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need it. Why keep it if you don't need it? Yeah.
Do you know how
It's
many?
available for viewing at the fire department if anybody's interested in a low-price car.
Well, that's yet to be seen.
Well, maybe you'll outbid everybody, but
Go for it.
Go for it.
Actually, I'd chip in to see you driving that thing around town.
No, that would be.
The light bar has been removed.
With, yeah, really, with the gas prices, what they have, be the only way you can afford it.
It's easier now.
I understand. Thank you.
That it?
Michael?
Yeah, you mentioned that we're running a little bit tight for the remainder of 15. Is that in total, or departments, some departments are way over and some are?
In total is all that matters.
Okay.
But, no, it's not dramatic from department to department. If any department is gonna miss, it's probably highway in aggregate. Because of where we are now and what the unknown is with the weather.
Sure.
Police will be right up against it, but will come in under, I think. Fire will be under, because a lot of the, our project costs are behind us and a lot of the remaining costs are they're not optional, but they're controllable. So we know that we can keep that under, you know, they're smaller equipment and purchases and things like that. That's what's left in that budget. Recycling will come in right around the number. That actually will be driven mostly by when materials are picked up and delivered. That will move that number more than anything. So we can make sure that comes in under, but it's going to come right up to it, right up close to it. On the executive stuff, I'm holding a little bit back on some project things because we're so close. And we have some electrical work still to be done here, so it's going to be close, but we're gonna be all right there. Recreation's right up against it, but it's a small dollar number, so it won't, townwide doesn't matter. What else is there?
I think the only big unknown really is whether we're gonna get blasted with some crazy storms,
Yeah.
right? I mean, other than that, we're feeling pretty good, you know?
Didn't we have snow this time last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're ahead of the game already.
70 degrees, go for it.
Or was it this time last year, or was it was Thanksgiving last year, and the year before it was?
On October 31st.
Halloween was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, 31st.
Do you have, the sheet for line item transfers to display where transfers occurred?
We don't really track them as such. I mean, there's kind of a default transfer when something comes in over, a particular line item comes in over budget. You know, that's by definition, something had to be transferred in there. We just have to hit the bottom line number in the.
Would you check on that? Because I believe there's a requirement under 32 that a line item transfer.
Oh, we could gin something up. That's
Well, I mean,
that's
it should be available now. If
you know,
if
I
I'm
could
right.
print something out that would do that for you.
Because what
We
it
can generate.
impacts budgeting, because if you're always taking from this line item to feed this line item, maybe we shouldn't budget this one so high, but we should.
Yeah, I think that's probably why we typically present you with multiple years of budget and actual spending. And that's what that information is for.
Would you check and see if line item transfers aren't required to be
Yeah.
displayed to the budget committee?
Yep.
My memory isn't the best, but I do
It could be,
remember
yeah.
under budget, RSA, something. Thank you.
Sure.
Could you put that as a follow-up item, please?
A couple other questions I had. When you're going through the budget and looking for things that if you really want to pare it down a little further, first of all, let me just say that I think the 1.3% is a very commendable year-to-year difference, and I thank you for all the hard work and
That's more our
your
department
part.
heads than it is me.
Yeah, well,
I have not had to do much to these
I'm
numbers.
real pleased with the work that's been done. I think it's great. But if you're wanting to be able to appropriate more and you feel that the taxpayers just aren't up for it, and you want to look at ways to trim the other areas, one thing that I look at is where you've got lines that traditionally have been budgeted at X and spent at X minus 20% or 50%, and you see that going on year to year, those you might look at trimming. And I'm just looking just for a couple examples, lines 18 and 19, telephone and internet on an executive. I don't know what more expenses you're gonna incur between now and December 31st, but those look like a couple areas where you can pick up a few hundred. We're not looking at big
This is a
dollars.
September 30 number, so we have
A quarter, yeah.
quarter, probably plus a month. That
Okay.
billing lags, so.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know this.
5/12 of a year for
Sure.
55% of
So
the
if
budget.
you anticipate those to come in real close to budgeted amount, then ignore what I said. But certainly those kinds of things to look for as you're going through. Another one that I just kind of marked, I think someplace, yeah. Cemetery road upgrade,
Yep,
3,000,
been there for a while.
2014, and
Yeah, that's been there for a while.
yeah, talk to your trustees and say, you really anticipate doing that this next year?
They're
And if they
not
do,
the limiting factor. It's actually our ability to get the highway crew in there with the gear that they need is, we will spend that money as soon as we have that's the limiting factor there on that particular line. We always hope to be able to do it and have not been successful. That's the, it's not the cemetery trustees,
All right,
plugging in a number, but, yes, it's a good point. And I do look for, there's no assumption that, the numbers, last year's number is sufficient. I wouldn't say that we use a zero-based budgeting methodology, but, every item is looked at least a little bit in that regard. The dumpster here comes to mind. There's a line item for the dumpster out front here that has been way over budget for a long time, and that comes down here this year. You see it in the welfare line. We've moved the welfare line down 2 consecutive years now. So those things happen. They go both ways, but we're looking for those too.
okay.
And you can see in the police line by itself, there's a lot of deltas, different than budget from last year. In the whole section from 164 out to 188, there's a lot of different line items that are down. So obviously we've looked over it quite a bit.
One other question for me,
Sure, go ahead.
philosophical. Just, I don't have a real good picture of how the select board and department heads and you talk about what the town needs most and what you'd do if you had the funds to do it. So just a hypothetical, if some resident hits the lotto big time and says, I want to just give the town $1 million next year. It's not me, I have no, but if that were to happen, what would you anticipate thinking of doing with a windfall of money that you didn't anticipate having? If the requirement was, you have to spend this year.
Something of that magnitude is really a town meeting level decision, but, Mark's gonna say, put it in the bank, or just take it off the taxes, but,
I'm gonna say, put part of it in the bank.
yeah, I would say, fund the CIP appropriately, and that may mean, reserve, whatever it is, that we're not ready for our capital needs right now. That would be, since I don't pay taxes here, that would be my first thing. It wouldn't hurt us to be more tax competitive. It wouldn't hurt us to address I'd say our biggest, facility need is, well, the recycling center's not gonna last forever. We need another ball field. Those, I guess, would be the top two, and depending on how you think about fire trucks. I guess those would be the first things that would come to my mind, but those are town meeting level decisions, you know, they're not, it's not what you pay me for.
Speaking of a windfall, where does USA Spring standing?
I almost brought that up in that answer, but
I've read your mind.
USA Springs is still in bankruptcy. There has been very little activity. Once in a while, we get a sniff from somebody calling and saying, hey, what's going on with this property, or
We thought, was it 9 months ago? We thought.
we had a nibble, a little bit, which in my book is a little bit better than a sniff.
Yeah.
Not a bite.
It was not a bite, that we didn't close on that. It's, the tax burden, the tax debt on that property is somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000 right now.
That I know.
And the posted retail price is $1 million. The asking price
They
from the
came down from
trustee.
1.9, right?
Yeah, so, we're getting no play at $1 million sticker price on it, so, it's,
Eventually, we're gonna be forced to.
yeah, and this, actually, I think we'll
That's
be
not
talking
gonna-
with the selectmen
not gonna be a good
next
thing.
year about, is it time to tax deed the property?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
You
Because
have
it's
to do
in
it through the court.
bankruptcy.
You have to do it through the court.
Yeah.
But it's, at some point, when the taxed, you know, we clearly see now that the value is less than $1 million, because it's been on the market for $1 million for a long time.
By who? By
It's,
the court?
it's set by the bankruptcy trustee. That price is set by the bankruptcy trustee. Anything will have to be approved by the court, but the trustee has set the price.
It's been out there for 2 years now, right?
I don't think it's been at $1 million for 2 years, but moving the price didn't move the market, you know, and we're not any closer to selling it, so it will become time to talk about going to the court to tax deed it.
Well,
As that tax
yeah.
debt approaches its apparent value,
And at 18%,
yes,
it's gonna come
it's coming quick.
It's coming faster, faster every day.
18% interest.
The risk for us is that it's not just the value, but it's the cost of ownership for us is not gonna be zero. So, it becomes a liability for us the moment we own it in ways that it is not now. So, I actually,
Then we gotta figure out what the hell to do with it.
Yeah,
Which means that we'll be trying to sell it as opposed to realtors trying to sell it, as, you know.
right, and
Is
we've,
it all zone commercial, or?
no, it's own residential
It's
commercial.
residential commercial, but they've got this big square slab.
Erector set.
With a steel structure on it?
Yeah.
That's-
and
There's
it's
no
huge.
slab.
It's huge.
No slab, it's dirt.
It's dirt?
Oh, it's
So it's
dirt.
just it's just a
Footings,
perimeter foundation.
yeah, footings, yeah.
So you'd have to
But
take
the steel is so old that it's not.
Steel's
It's not
useless,
worth
yeah.
anything.
So you'd have to take that down,
You have to-
incur the
yeah,
cost to
which-
take it
Yeah,
down?
which is several $100,000 to just excavate it and then start over.
So right now, if it sold tomorrow, the town would get $700,000 out of the cost, or what, how would
It's
that work?
likely that there would be some kind of negotiation on,
Yeah.
with the other creditors. We are first in line of a number of creditors, so as part of the bankruptcy process, there would be some negotiation of how much would you be willing to accept less than that $700,000, and we could say not a penny, or we could say some number less than that. And, you know, in the interest, I suspect we would say something less than that in the interest of getting it redeveloped, because it's doing nothing for us now. But that is on the radar for, we need to start planning for owning it in 2016, because in 2017, it may be time to take it.
How does that affect the budgeting when you're carrying that much of a uncollected tax revenue?
Not at all.
Not at all, okay, so it's not.
I mean, it's in the tax base,
Yeah, but
but it
it's,
has been forever, so, or not forever, but for,
no, I mean the debt, not the value.
it's not a debt, it's
It's uncollected taxes.
it's an uncollected tax, so, you know, we end up, over the years of it not being paid, however many years it's been, you have absorbed that tax burden gradually.
And we'll continue to do that.
Continue to do so.
Because it's in the computation, whatever the yearly tax is on the assessed value of the property, but it never gets collected, so therefore it's absorbed out of the general fund,
Right.
along with anybody else that doesn't pay their taxes.
Right, you would feel it, I mean, the assessed value of that property went down in the revaluation, so you took another
Bite.
You took another bite in that sense. It's not a big enough portion of the tax base that it in itself can now move the number dramatically. As its value goes down and the value of everything else goes up, it matters less and less in the unpaid tax context. It is I mean, you think about what $500,000 would do, or $700,000 would do, it would move our unassigned fund balance dramatically, or move your tax rate dramatically, one or the other, in the moment that it's sold. So
Over $1.
it's still a big number in that context.
So you think it's drawing closer to a resolution?
Well,
I didn't say that.
it's,
Well, you mentioned a year, so I.
yeah, drawing closer to the time when we
It's a
may
break even.
seriously have to tax deed it, which is not necessarily a good, I mean, it's not a good thing.
How would that work, actually, with the numbers? How, if you went to the court to tax deed it, there would be some negotiated price? What would happen? Procedurally.
I'm actually not quite sure
Yeah.
exactly how that
We haven't had that conversation. We had the,
We've avoided that conversation on purpose because we don't want to irritate
The situation?
the situation, and we don't want to, we want to come across as if we're playing ball and, you know, let the trustee take care of his business. But, you know, eventually it's going to get to the point where the taxes owed or exceed any hope of the payment that he thinks he can get for it. So there's no money left there for any of the unsecured creditors. So what game are we playing?
Right, so you're just out. You're gonna have a debt that's never.
and then we start to lose because
Right.
we will never, once the
Right.
taxes do exceed the value, if they don't already,
Yeah, which,
then
Right,
it
but
really
we don't-
becomes a lost tax revenue situation for us, because we will never get it back.
right.
Right now, if it sells for $1 million, we can expect to be made almost whole, you know, some good fraction of whole, because we're first in line as creditors.
Is that the last asset of the bankruptcy hearing?
Yeah, I don't,
Well, there's a,
is there some money?
pole thing, right? The wireless tower pole.
Oh, there's a cell tower there, but that's kind of independent. Those taxes are paid. The land underneath it is part of the estate, or whatever the bankruptcy
So
asset.
there's a lease for a cell tower.
Correct.
They
The lease proceeds go to the trustee, and we've been asking, hey, can we get a sniff of that? And, the trustee's gobbling it all up. It's not a huge number, but, and we were actually approached by the cell tower company recently to, well, not recently, it was about a year ago,
Yeah, last year, yeah.
with an offer to buy an easement, a permanent, perpetual easement under that tower, which the selectmen said no thank you to, because, the parcel with a permanent tower stuck in the middle of it is worth a lot less to us
Yeah.
3 years from now. We turned down some short money there,
Just tie our hands and,
right.
Another,
no real upside.
But that's one of the things that if we did tax deed it, that revenue becomes ours. So that comes into the mix as well.
thanks for the update,
Yeah,
I think.
it's a hot mess. It's a dumpster
So is that
fire.
what you were suggesting with your $1 million? Is that where it's gonna come from?
No,
I
it was very hypothetical. It was very
Went from
hypothetical.
philosophical
It was just an entrance into the discussion of what the town would like to do if they had the money. to do it.
So the reason I started smiling is, Michigan, you're not gonna believe this, but I would take a part of that money and I'd make sure that Marcion got done. Honest truth. That's why I was smiling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Good night.
Appreciate it.
See you at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Subcommittee reports, besides the Martian update we just got, based on anything new?
Yeah, no, the MPEC committee got the RFPs, and like we did, we presented to the Board of Selectmen and requested funds for the possibility of doing a conceptual plan for the property. And so now our next step is that we are analyzing all the RFPs that came in. We are grading them along the same grade scale so that each one is graded equally. And then we will invite 3 to come in and do a formal presentation to then make a final decision on who we would recommend to the selectmen to do a conceptual design plan.
Yeah, so those are all over the place. Yeah.
What's that?
The proposals are all over the place as far as the design work goes.
Yes, I mean, most of them tend to be right in the same range, and then there was one that was kind of way out there in the high price range. But a lot of them came with, great qualifications, and those proposals are all online on the town website for anybody who wants to see them, so. Oh, they're not available.
Okay, they're only available to me online.
They're available, yes.
They're available on the new website.
But you can't see it.
They're available to the committee members.
To the community members, I'm sorry.
Special. Can I be on your committee?
It's on a need-to-know basis.
If there was somebody that wanted to look at them, though, that you could
Yes.
make copies available, right? I mean, it's nothing hidden in there. You got,
There's nothing,
Top
pretty
secret.
straightforward.
you got several real bids, and then you got a no bid that's way the hell out in the stratosphere.
Right.
I could actually make it so that it is now available to the general public, but I think there was concern with putting the bids out to the general public before the committee even had an opportunity to
Right.
review them and talk about them.
Yep.
But I think at this point, you guys are ready to do that, so even if it's just the ones you think you might look over,
Yeah,
or
we'll have to check
whatever we
with Donna
need to
on
do.
that.
Cool, thanks. CIP?
CIP, when are we gonna have a meeting again? I haven't had a meeting
When's
since
that meeting
the
coming up?
last report to you.
We're trying to figure it out. One of those selectmen keeps traveling and can't stay home.
The other 2 couldn't handle it without him or her?
Well, that selectman has suggested that the other 2 could handle it. But anyways, it's coming. I don't know. We talked about it Monday. We didn't have a resolution on exactly what the next date would be, so it's coming.
In the works.
To be determined, okay.
I do have, how's the school CIP, and when is the budget committee gonna be presented with something about
The
that?
school has, had one meeting where we worked on CIP. I had a family matter, so I wasn't at our meeting last night. However, I believe they talked about it. I'll need to touch base with the superintendent, see what adjustments were made. I met at the school board's request with the administrators, and we've got a pretty good draft ready to roll, and that's what they would have discussed last night. We also talked to the planning board about impact fees and the CIP. I'm gonna confer with the superintendent and see what the next steps were that they decided last night for timeline.
I'm confused about why there's a separate CIP from the CIP.
It's gonna be augmented with it. We're just working our section of it, as a board at each meeting.
But it should be integrated according to the way I read the law, that it is a
This year, I think that the selectmen decided to do it in a different way. They sent us a letter and asked us if we wanted to go and join CIP, or if they would, how we'd like to work with it. We elected to do it at our own meetings, which we're doing.
I
We've
wasn't aware
talked
of
to
that.
planning board, and I'm also, planning board has extended John Moran's help to us if we need it or what have you, so I don't think there's an
So
issue.
John Moran is a member,
He's a CIP representative on the planning board.
but he doesn't go to meetings. Does he go to meetings?
To CIP
To-
meetings,
yeah,
or?
on the CIP shall include at least one member of the planning board.
I
Does,
don't understand your.
my question is, who is the planning board member that sits with you
We
folks?
are going to take our numbers that we have, talk with the CIP committee, talk with the planning board, talk with the budget committee, and hand over all of our assessments, if you will, and it will be augmented. And there'll be a copy, obviously, in the town book, and there'll probably be a copy in the school book, and that should not be an issue.
But basically, you're gonna do your CIP
our section.
You're gonna do the school CIP, and then you're gonna throw it over the wall and ask that it be put into the same document.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna
So the
work.
CIP, this is the first I understood that.
So it's really no
we
different.
talked
We
about
talked
it.
about this a couple weeks ago,
Gina.
regarding the fact that they are better suited to do a capital improvement plan for the school than people who are not involved in the school. And they were gonna do their share and then give it to the capital improvement committee
That part I missed.
to integrate it into the overall plan.
No, if you remember when we had our CIP meeting, I got everybody's agreement that we were not talking about anything to do with the school.
Yes, I remember that.
They're separate, right? This is
We're
what
following the
school
same format. I mean,
do, and
3 out of,
them to collaborate, and they didn't want to, and that's fine. They're gonna do their thing, and, you know.
But it will all come back to the established committee.
No, it's not gonna come to,
Each pro do their own.
there's a town CIP now, and there's a school CIP. We invited the school to participate so that we would have one. They chose to do their own. So now there's a town CIP, there's a school CIP.
I think ours will end up being just the way it always was, is my understanding of it. We're using the same spreadsheets. I think 3 out of 5 of us have done CIP and cooperated fully. But quite frankly, there's been quite a bit of acrimony, and we're trying to avoid that and take the high road. And I think it's working out well, and I appreciate your thoughts on that, so.
I appreciate your thoughts too. I don't know what the issue is. There's no
Well,
issue.
there's no,
There isn't
well,
one.
I asked it because of my lack of understanding.
Yeah.
It's 2 pages each. And I think there's one more. I think I counted them out properly for each side.
I think we need one more. No, we got Mike.
Did you not get? Oh, you did.
Yeah, there's 2 separate.
I just distributed the enrollment report from October 1st as requested, and we're going to keep you guys posted at every meeting for the enrollment report, so that's what I just passed out.
Perfect, thanks.
This is the current enrollment?
Yeah, this is October 1st. You've already seen September, and I think the difference on this is 5 students if you,
See that?
yep. So,
Wasn't it 522 before?
it was, on the monthly enrollment report for the K to 8 school, we had 540 in September, and we now have 535
But on the in-district, was that?
on the in.
On the, there's 2 parts to the K through 8. One is homeschool and one is in-district.
Yeah, so your homeschooled students went up by 1,
Oh, I see.
and your total, including homeschool, went down by 5.
And it doesn't, yeah. What accounts for that?
Yeah, and I'm not, just, I think probably October is maybe a firmer analysis. That's what they use at the state level. So there may be some fluctuation, maybe folks are moving or what have you in September, it's kind of settling in, I'm
Doesn't
not
make
sure.
much difference. Why does it?
You can see it by grade, and then you also have the other sheet, which is just a summary. And then you have your total K through 12. And I apologize, the circles and checks don't mean anything. This is just a copy of what I had, and I look at totals and check them, so.
Oh, yeah, previous
That's all.
one.
Thanks.
You mentioned something else, maybe a little off topic, that the school is not gonna be included in the town report. It's gonna be 2 books.
We're gonna, yeah, and we're gonna do the same number, and again, we'll bring everything to the town hall, and we're really excited about it. We can have a cover, and we can have a nice analysis, and maybe do some more charts and graphs, and we're gonna take a stab at that, trying to put together a really nice school district report, and of course, we budgeted for the same amount of copies that we typically do on the annual report, so we can be 1 for 1 there, and be
So what's the incremental cost for you guys to do your own?
incremental, the additional cost that we're gonna, I think we put in $2,400?
$2,400.
24, 25.
So that you can have your own separate book.
Yep.
So how do you justify the $2,400 from a resident's perspective? What's the value that
I
the
think
resident
that the
gets?
value in it, for us, I think,
No, for the resident, not for you,
Yeah.
for the resident.
okay, I think what we were looking at was that we would like to make it clear that there are two separate districts in the town, if you will. We're gonna put out a really nice book. We think it's gonna be very informational for our taxpayers. We think that there'll be a lot of value in it, and that's why we're doing it. But also,
But you didn't say anything.
we didn't say, well,
You just said there's gonna be value, and I'm asking what's the
I
value?
think it's going to be a very nicely put-together book that has information for the taxpayers. And I think the key thing about it, given some of the mailers that went out last year, where there was some clouding of people using their titles and having some maybe additional clout given to their titles, that it would be good for the school district to assert itself a bit. And so that's part of it. So we're gonna look at it, and we're gonna see how it works this year, and we're gonna see if the taxpayers.
So $2,400 to the taxpayers, all over a political inside issue
Well-
between a selectman and the school board.
A
That's what I
selectman.
saw.
Well, I don't know, I think you're
That's what I-
simplifying, and I think there was a lot of really written things that, don't forget, 700 kids got affected by it. So we're trying to take the high road. We have not been the aggressor in any way. We want to do business as a school district. We want to put data out there, and that's what we're trying to do. We're going to test it out this year, see if people perceive value in it. If they don't like it, then we don't have to do it again. So that's what we're doing.
Sorry, I got off topic a little bit. No, that's all right. No, it's a good question. It's, you know, this value of some, test scores or information about the district that's gonna help maybe potential people from out of town come to town, or, I think it's a good question that Mark's asking as far as,
Yep, the values of the
Detail.
townspeople.
Right.
I think that
We
you
will
should,
be.
I think that you should be better prepared to talk about that value than when you guys present your budget, you know.
maybe when you have your decision, you're up there and doing your part of it.
Sure, we can talk about that a little bit.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Now, Jackie was doing the, school bus transportation committee. I wasn't sure if anyone would want to take that on, and you expressed some interest in maybe doing
Yeah,
that.
I had offered to her before to fill in for her if she was unavailable, so I don't have a problem, taking that on. I'll just need to find out what their schedule is.
Appreciate that. Do you have a motion to do that? Or just to point you to it? Right. Thank you, Tony, appreciate it.
So, there we go.
Let's see. Other business? Anything else we need to discuss we have not yet? All right. Roundtable?
I'm not sure who this question would go to, but do we have a manifest of all the archaeological sites in town? Anywhere?
The
A listing?
Historical Society, be the place to go.
Or what?
The Historical Society.
So, what are you looking for?
A directory, like, of all the archaeological sites in town, protected sites.
I would think between the Historical Society and perhaps
Conservation Commission, maybe?
Conservation Committee, but I don't think the Conservation Committee. I would think the Historical Society would be the place to go.
And do they have any protected status tax-wise because of their historical value, or is it just a property like any other?
They're independently run, so, we do some collaboration as far as like some of the locations of the things, cemeteries, original buildings, schools, some of the old mills. If you look in the hallway, the maps that we did last year, identify those, I think they.
Oh, they do,
With
okay.
them at the, Nottingham Day this year, the big square maps, but they kind of do it, they're doing it their own.
Would the cemetery commission be of any help?
Cemetery blocks.
Martha?
There's some information in the town's master plan.
Yeah, that's right.
Might be a good place to start.
That's all I can.
Mark?
You're not.
Thanks, everybody, for not missing me too much in the last couple weeks, or last couple meetings that I wasn't here. Don, was there some handout material that has been stacking up for me? Okay, good, I'll have to get that. Otherwise, nothing further.
Thank you. Gene?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set.
I'm good, thank you.
All set?
All good.
Get a motion?
We adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.